Welcome back to SoulNet, friends. We have caught a fish in our SoulNet in the way of a special guest today. Our usual host, Dayna, is away, and so I am so excited to introduce you someone in my life that epitomizes love and has for a very long time, and I'm very grateful for her to be here. My co-host, Megan, and our special guest, Misha Waite.
Welcome, Mish.
Thank you.
So Misha Waite is a registered clinical counselor whose practice blends several therapies, including cognitive behavioral therapy, solution-focused therapy, body-centered therapy, motivational interviewing, brief dialectical behavior therapy, and client-centered approaches. Oh my God, how lucky are we to have you? Misha works with youth, adults, couples, and families in the areas of mental health, stress, anxiety, chronic pain, depression, anger management, life transitions, aggression, grief, and complex trauma PTSD. She lives and works in Vancouver, British Columbia, and we are so excited to welcome Mish into our Soul Network to talk about love.
There's this big love ball that is in our city, and I've always associated that with Misha. It's just, she's this big ball of love. So it seemed really appropriate. That would be what we'd talk about today.
Yes, and love generates love, right? Love generates love. Thinking of where the world is today, and it's big, it's complex, it's moody. That's, in my way, that's how I define love. It's moody and complex, and it's messy. And so we're all trying to find our way in moving through that in the world as complex as it is now. Not that it's never been complex, but I think more so we're a lot more observant to it, aware of it, and trying to find that place to hold it.
You know, when I think about love, and like we think about it often as attachment. I'm reading a book by Susan Cain called Bittersweet. It's about joy and melancholy and how like they exist together in our life.
Yes.
And when you say about moving through things in our life, moving through, you know, I was just reading about it and it was just really resonating, like the impermanence of things.
Mm-hmm.
Love is something that feels very steady and constant, but everything else feels impermanent. And so how do we stay loving through all of the things that we're losing? We're losing people, we're losing control, we're losing what we knew, like our environment. It's almost like the reason we feel distressed is because of how much we love.
Yes.
But we're just not willing to let go.
I feel like we have this innate vision that life is free from suffering, or we're to be, you know, all these things like joy, love, happiness are, like Misha said, like a constant. But the reality is we're dabbling back in and out through our experiences. And things like, I love the quote of, you know, happiness is just a string of individual moments. It's not necessarily a consistency over time, because there is trauma, there is the experiences that we go through that are part of our growth cycle here. So even these feelings of loving, like, can love and hate kind of coexist? And I think we have to move through all aspects of these emotions to get to love.
We don't know how to do that, how to be that coexistence piece as a society. I think individually, right? Just as we move through all of this, just saying, hey, this can all coexist. Can we be with sadness and joy? Can we be with, you know, when we think of love, right? I think love encompasses so much. And that's why I say love is complex and messy and moody. Everything else is a catalyst to love, right? If we don't have everything else, we don't know what love is. Just as, you know, as people say, how can you know hate without love, and vice versa? How can you know love without hate? I mean, hate is maybe a strong word, but there is hate out there. So I want to keep it real as well.
I often think about it like a whale, like the breaching, kind of envision it like that. Like I go deep into my struggles and deep into my sadness and deep into my feelings, those feelings that are really hard to process. but I always have to come up and like levitate. I have to take a breath. I have to come up to the surface where things are like brighter and lighter, and I catch my breath.
That's where the power is. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if we get stuck down in those lower vibrational spaces and we don't come up for air and we don't find joy and we don't feel up in the loving space, then, we can get dragged down. We can drown.
That visual of this, diving deep into the ocean and then this need to come up for air. It reminds me so much of the sealskin, soulskin story. It's again by one of our favorite authors, Clarissa Pinkola Estés, in her Women Who Run with Wolves books. And it's the story of a sacred act of love between a woman of the sea, a man and their child, and the honoring of our soul journey here. So she's of the sea, and she sees a fisherman who's very, very lonely. He catches her in his net and he nurses her back. And instead of her going free, she offers her life to him for a period of time. And so she sheds her seal skin, which is where her natural environment is, which it obviously has a correlation to the divine feminine and the water and the moon cycles. So she leaves her soul skin. She pretty much unzips herself and starts to create this life with this man. And they have a child together. And as the time goes on, she feels the call of her soul, and she starts to wither and starts to decay this beautiful energy that she was when he first met her. Even though they've created a son together, he starts to see that her home is not with him. Her home is the sea and within her own soul skin. So she decides to leave her son, and he's grown now, and she starts to return to the sea where she belongs and to her true self. So she was an offering of love to this man, and now she returns to herself. I love that from a standpoint of, I feel like that kind of is the soul journey. Historically, we would use the earlier part of our years to have our careers, to raise our families, to contribute to society around us. And then often couples would break up in around the, 60, 70, depending on the age of the times. And they would actually go on their individual soul journeys, because that was the latter part of life as we're leaning towards death, was about returning to our autonomy and ourself and whatever purpose we have here. And so that was kind of the moral of that story, was remembering that although we can be in these relationships and we can make these choices to raise families and stuff like that, we are responsible to ourselves and our journeys here. Even though we can experience love, relationships, all these beautiful things with others, it really comes back to us.
Oh, that must be. You're a great storyteller. Right? That goes back to allowing it to coexist. Because if we feel that if I'm in this change, or I'm in this sadness, I'm in this upheaval, I'm in this chaos, that is all I have to focus on, we lose sight, yes, of not only ourselves, but what is valuable and what's meaningful. Right? So we just have to see it as this, if we can envision this path, and here is the chaos, here's the upheaval, here's all the change, and here I am, and there is still joy, there is still love. Right. So they're just holding hands. We have to befriend each other, right? And I love the way you said earlier, Megan, when we just, like that whale, and you go deep, and you process, and you sit and you lean, and then you come up for some air. And I kind of can sense that that's the pause. There's that pause, which is so powerful, right? I came up for a breath, right? And now I can go back down and I can rise again. Right?
When I'm in those deep, deep spaces, that's often when I will reach out to my friends, my pod. Sometimes you got to throw up a lifeline to a friend. You got to have someone help, bring you to the surface. Right? I mean, we truly have to do it on our own, but I do think having an awareness of the people in your world who can help you to rise in those moments, and we'll laugh, like, knowing that life is hard, we'll still find those moments to laugh and be silly with you.
Yes. I think it's the laugh and cry too, right?
Yes, yes. Being vulnerable.
Being vulnerable, yes. But ultimately we need each other. If not, we don't survive. We can't. I mean, that's our human existence, right? We need connection, we need love, we need warmth, we need touch, we need others. We
Yes.
need ourselves, but we need others, right? And being able to ask for that and receive, right? Being able to say in those moments when I just can't, it's
Yeah.
okay, right? To say, hey,
Yeah.
Dayna, Megan, I need you. Right?
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
I need some love, right? And we, especially as women, that we find ourselves now in this place that we need to do it on our own. We need to figure this out.
Honestly, the not asking for help is one of my worst traits. I feel like I've passed on to my son because I felt after my separation and divorce, especially, I felt like I really had to do it all on my own, and I wanted to, but it was a horrible habit that I created where I couldn't ask for help. I felt like everything was on me, and often those were times where I would feel really stuck because I would be in this place where what I needed was someone else to come in and help me, but I didn't have the courage at that point to be vulnerable with myself and say, like, hey, I can't do this on my own. And there are really beautiful qualities of some of the ways that we can be raised. And, my father and mother raised two really powerful, independent young women. The downside of that is I never got good at asking for help. And it's taken me a long time to recognize that that was not a sign of weakness, that was actually a superhero strength to be able to ask and invite others to help. And it's something that I recognize in my work, that how good it feels to be of service to somebody else. And I recognize that by denying the people in my life the ability to show up for me, we stop the exchange, the natural exchange of giving and receiving, because we've blocked that. We've blocked others from being able to show up in a loving way for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken a long time to move through that.
That's such a great awareness.
What a gift, right? To give that to one another. That's love.
Yeah.
When it's
Yeah.
like I can show up as my true self and authentically me, and I can hold you where you are, and you could show up as your true self, authentically you, and here we are in the same space.
Well, and Mish, as I said earlier, like, you were a really big part of that. You opened up this really real expression of who you are. When I first met you, you were like kind of like no other because you were so real. And I was like, oh, what do you mean I don't have to be a people pleaser and all this kind of stuff? What do you mean I can just say I'm having a shit ass day? Like, that was really foreign to me. And it was such a gift, like such a gift. And I really, when I reflect back on it now, I recognize just how, even though we did separate for a period of time with the friendship, how big that gift was for me, because it really helped
Mm.
start me along the path in some ways. That's love.
Love.
It is.
That thing called
And
love.
Mish,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing from you, and which I'm loving, is like this theme of like that emotions coexist, that we coexist as humans. Like there's no separation in love.
Mm.
None. It should be.
That's what I'm hearing. There's no separation in love. Like when we are
Mm.
in the depths, like being able to ask for help, being vulnerable allows us to be connected and not separate from one another.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. That's a heck
Right?
yes.
Yes.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing. And I'm like, I take that today as such a gift to remember that and to carry that forward, because separateness, that's not the love line. Love is not, not in the separateness. It's in the togetherness. It's in the connection.
So, Misha, how do you express that love towards yourself?
Cheeky.
Ah! Oh my gosh. I love it. Now we're going to put you in the hot seat,
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. I've been doing more of that cultivating self-love by by being really honest with me, by showing up with intention, by allowing myself to be vulnerable, by asking for help. And I recently started doing nature therapy. I really am grounded when I'm in the forest.
Preaching to the
Oh,
choir.
me.
And just, just I find that's where I find myself home, especially home in my body, right? And so giving myself permission to do more of that with intention. Because there's one thing to say, oh, I have my self care routine, right? And, I got to go to the gym and going for my walk, or I'm going to go meet my friend for coffee. Over time, it just feels like a task and a chore. And we don't do those things with intention anymore. And so, even making the effort to say, yes, I'm going to go sip and enjoy my cup of tea with a friend. I'm going to go, intentionally go for my walk. I'm going to pay attention to what's around me, that mindfulness piece, that being aware, opening up myself to just, I'm getting curious. I'm getting curious, and as I age, I mean, I'm 52, right? Again, where we were 5 years ago is definitely not where I'm at now. And it's not where I'm going to be 5 years from now. Doing it all with intention. Whatever I do with intention, with good intention.
The beautiful thing about friendship is we see when we blossom. And I know that Misha's seen me blossom over the years too, as I've gone, and I see her now. It's really hard to be a therapist, someone that holds space for people regularly, and the level of suffering that is happening in the world, that we also are being asked to or needing to raise our self care practices so that we can continue to hold that space and do the important work that you are doing in the world. And so I love this return home. Who was it that said, I can't remember her name. It was a walk in nature walks the soul home. And I feel like this is
Mm,
what you're rediscovering, or we're all rediscovering. I mean, we're all kind of on this similar path through the pandemic, I think, that really pushed many of us to find peace. And we found it among the trees.
Yes, we did. I love that. Thank you for sharing also, because I think there's probably a lot of people, that are feeling that depletion, and they're in service to others, whether it's nurses, teachers, therapists, doctors. I think there's burnout. And so just to honor love of self, finding that space, those practices that support you, and like allowing yourself to kind of come up and breathe, right? Come up for air. But intention, you speak of intention.
and when I say intention, it's like, make it meaningful, make it worth your while, make it worth whoever's receiving, make it their while. We so often hear of mindfulness. I don't think we really have grasped the true meaning of mindfulness. And that's being with all of it. That's being with the sadness, right? With the pain, with the discomfort, being with the joy, with the love, and that coexistence piece again, right? But mindfulness is being wherever we are in the moment, but being present with all of it.
In the book Bittersweet, it talks about that, like walking life with your joy and your grief, with your
Yes.
melancholy and your happy. I think we're raised to think like we want everything to be okay.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But the reality is we have to be able to walk life knowing, holding space for all of it, both the okay and the good and the not so good.
Yeah.
Such an important conversation.
So what are the offerings for our listeners out there that maybe don't have access to the forest? I think this is actually a really great question for both of you. I know as Meg is a forest therapy guide as well. Like, where do you lead people to find those same feelings of home that the forest and nature can offer us if they don't have access?
You can always come home to your body. We are body people,
Yeah.
humans, right? we're bodies. And so being able to sit in your body, you can use visualization, right? You can just imagine. Daydreaming is a beautiful thing, right? If you can't lean in and find a forest or bring earth into your home, you can bring it home with your imagination.
Yes, you can. So I would also add to that for anybody who enjoys poetry, music can bring you there.
Yes.
Reading poetry, Mary Oliver writes a lot about nature.
Oh, so beautiful.
Some meditations, as you said, visualization meditation, guided meditations that can help you really kind of drop in to that imagination and out of like the mind, the busy mind. Right. So those are some of the offerings that I would add to that. But yeah, you can find your home inside of your heart.
Yes. Just trust your capacity, trust yourselves, right? That you can. It's often people say, well, it has to be more than that. It doesn't have to be complicated.
No, we always overcomplicate things, right? Simple works. I'll also add, Ayurveda offers us that we balance our minds, which are often the biggest disruptors of both our mental capacity and our physical bodies. They kind of regulate and cause a lot of disruption. It offers us ways to help balance the mind through the senses. So if we can't get into nature, we would offer up visuals or sounds of nature. So you could, even having artwork on your walls that is a landscape. And there's, of course, are more specifics if we go into the doshas of which ones will help bring you into balance, but generalized, art around you. And as Megan said, music is amazing. So nature sounds, put the headphones on, close your eyes and dream, visualize yourself in the forest or by the running brook, whatever it is. Take your mind away from the busyness of all of its thoughts and its experiences and allow it to just be. So we can kind of start to create these subconscious associations with these places that bring us contentment and peace. And then we can begin to start to access these parts without any of those sounds. So that's where sitting in absolute stillness without any of that takes us really more easily into that visualization place. Are we ready for a little soul to soul rapid fire and get Misha in the hot seat?
Okay, Lord, bring it on.
Sports bra or lacy and racy?
Ooh, why? Nothing. I like freedom.
Don't
contain the girls.
Don't contain any of the girls.
Your favorite way to decompress?
My breath. Bring it back to my breath.
And it's always with you. What song best describes you?
I have to say this song by Beyonce. I don't know the title. I think it's Break My Soul. But it's like, you won't break my soul. You won't break my soul. And it was just like, girl, no one is going to break my soul.
Amen. Wow.
I play that song over and over again. That my daughter's like, what is wrong with you? I love that song.
Okay. Which book do you own that is dog-eared or bookmarked the most?
Rising Strong, Brene Brown.
Lovely. All her stuff.
I go back to that often.
Last one. What is one sentence you would say to your younger self?
You have done and will continue to do hard things.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. And we're all going to get through it with a little help from our friends and the love that they bring.
Thank you for having me. And as Shel Silverstein said, and so this is all the love that I have today.
Wow.
Beautiful.
As we move forward with Misha's words of wisdom, the intention of love, and remembering that all things coexist, and let love kind of lead the way. We'll sign off, Soulnet. Until next time. Bye for now.
Hi, soul friends. Thanks to you, we're building a beautiful community. We hope you find our conversations interesting and helpful. If you do, you can help us by liking the podcast, sharing it with friends, and following it for updates. Click on like, share, and follow on your podcast platform, and we will continue to meet you here in this beautiful space with our conversations and our guests.